The most extraordinary military intervention in modern Latin American history has unfolded with unprecedented speed and global consequences. Following the successful capture of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife Celia Flores in a dramatic overnight military operation, the United States now faces the complex challenge of managing not just Venezuela's immediate governance crisis, but also the broader regional and international ramifications of what many observers are calling the most significant American intervention in the hemisphere since the 1989 invasion of Panama. Photos and videos released throughout Saturday have provided dramatic visual evidence of the operation's success. Images obtained by ABC News show a handcuffed Nicolás Maduro being escorted by Drug Enforcement Administrator Terry Cole and other federal agents after landing at Stewart Air National Guard Base in Newburgh, New York. The White House Rapid Response Team shared video footage showing Maduro walking down a hallway on a carpet marked DEA NYD, escorted by 3 men in DEA jackets, with the caption, "Perp walked." These powerful images represent a stunning fall for a leader who just days earlier was defying American pressure and claiming legitimacy as Venezuela's elected president. The military operation itself, designated Operation Absolute Resolve, involved more than 150 aircraft launching from 20 bases across the Western Hemisphere. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane revealed that President Trump gave final approval for the mission at 10:46 p.m. ET on Friday night. The extraction force, including law enforcement officers, flew into Venezuela at 100 feet above water level to avoid detection. The operation targeted Fuerte Tiuna, Venezuela's largest military complex, where Maduro and his wife were reportedly captured at their residence, according to Venezuelan ruling party leader Nahum Fernandez. Photos shared with CBS News show the devastating aftermath at Fuerte Tiuna, with charred vehicles and heavily damaged structures providing stark evidence of the military strike's intensity. At least 7 explosions rocked Caracas around 2 a.m. local time, sending residents rushing into the streets while others documented the unprecedented scenes on social media. The apparent attack lasted less than 30 minutes, but effectively ended Maduro's 11-year rule and fundamentally altered Venezuela's political landscape. Trump's announcement that the United States will run Venezuela until a formal transition of power can take place has created immediate concerns about American occupation and governance of a sovereign nation. Speaking from Mar-a-Lago, Trump declined to rule out the possibility of longer-term military involvement, stating, "We're going to be running it," without providing specific timelines or exit strategies. This open-ended commitment raises profound questions about American intentions and the precedent being set for future interventions in the region. The legal proceedings against Maduro began immediately upon his arrival in New York. Attorney General Pam Bondi revealed a new indictment filed in the Southern District of New York, alleging that Maduro ran state-sponsored gangs and facilitated extensive drug trafficking operations. After arriving at Stewart Air National Guard Base, Maduro was transported by helicopter to New York City and then to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where he will be held pending trial. His wife, Celia Flores, is also in U.S. custody, according to sources familiar with the matter. The international reaction has been swift and sharply divided. Regional powers have largely condemned the action, with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva stating that the strikes crossed an unacceptable line and set a dangerous precedent. Despite past tensions with Maduro over disputed elections, Lula warned that the action evoked the worst moments of interference in Latin America and threatened the region's status as a zone of peace. Colombia deployed security forces along the border to prepare for potential refugee flows, while Mexico called the strikes a violation of the UN Charter. Global powers Russia and China have issued strong condemnations. Russia's foreign ministry called the action an unacceptable assault on Venezuela's sovereignty and reaffirmed solidarity with the Venezuelan people. China expressed being deeply shocked by what it termed Washington's blatant use of force against a sovereign state. Both countries are supporting Venezuela's call for an emergency UN Security Council meeting, setting up a potential diplomatic confrontation that could have far-reaching implications for international law and relations. The domestic American political response has followed predictable partisan lines, but with notable complications. Democratic lawmakers have demanded immediate congressional briefings and criticized the administration for not seeking authorization before the attack. Democratic National Committee Chair Ken Martin called the operations unconstitutional and illegal strikes, while Democratic Senator Mark Warner expressed concerns about the precedent the operation has set. Republican lawmakers have largely applauded the action, though some have raised questions about constitutional processes and long-term planning. Trump's decision not to notify Congress until after the strike has created a significant constitutional controversy. Congress has a tendency to leak. It would not be good if they leaked, Trump explained at his Mar-a-Lago news conference. This justification has drawn criticism from legal experts who argue that military action of this magnitude requires congressional authorization under the War Powers Resolution and constitutional separation of powers principles. The situation in Venezuela itself remains highly fluid and potentially dangerous. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2025, welcomed the action in a letter posted on social media, stating that Nicolás Maduro from today faces international justice for the atrocious crimes committed against Venezuelans. However, Trump declined to endorse Machado as a potential successor, saying she doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect. This rejection of the Nobel laureate opposition leader raises serious questions about Trump's plans for Venezuelan governance and whether the administration has a clear transition strategy. The absence of a recognized interim government or clear succession plan creates a power vacuum that could lead to internal conflict, military fragmentation, or the emergence of competing factions claiming legitimacy. The Venezuelan military's response will be crucial in determining the country's immediate stability. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez declared that Venezuela will prevail, not negotiate, not give up. But the extent of military loyalty to the government remains unclear with Maduro in American custody. Pro-government armed civilians have been reported patrolling in La Guaira, while supporters of Maduro have gathered in downtown Caracas, creating a tense atmosphere that could quickly escalate into violence. Economic implications are already beginning to manifest. Venezuela's vast oil reserves, the world's largest proven deposits, are now effectively under indirect American control. Trump indicated that the U.S. expects to become very strongly involved in Venezuela's oil industry, suggesting major changes in how these resources will be developed and exported. International oil markets will be watching closely to see how this transition affects global supply chains and pricing. The humanitarian dimension cannot be overlooked. Venezuela has already experienced one of the largest refugee crises in Latin American history, with over 7 million Venezuelans fleeing the country due to economic collapse and political repression. The current uncertainty could trigger additional displacement, putting strain on neighboring countries that are already struggling to accommodate Venezuelan refugees. Colombia, Brazil, Peru, and Ecuador all face potential new refugee flows, depending on how the situation develops. Regional security implications extend far beyond Venezuela's borders. The precedent of American military intervention to remove a head of state could influence other regional conflicts and American policy toward countries like Nicaragua, Cuba, or even Mexico, which Trump criticized during his Saturday press conference. The success of this operation may embolden more aggressive American approaches to other regional challenges. International legal experts are debating the precedent this operation sets for international law and sovereignty. The action was taken without UN Security Council authorization, invitation from a legitimate government, or clear self-defense justification. This could weaken international legal frameworks and encourage other major powers to pursue similar unilateral actions against governments they oppose. The role of intelligence and prior planning suggests this operation was carefully prepared over weeks or months. Trump revealed that he had spoken with Maduro several times, including as recently as a week ago, urging him to surrender voluntarily. "I said, 'You got to surrender.' And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did," Trump stated. This diplomatic track record indicates that the military option was pursued after other approaches failed. Tulsi Gabbard's appointment as Director of National Intelligence adds an interesting dimension to the operation's political context. During Trump's first term, Gabbard vehemently opposed military intervention in Venezuela, writing that, "It's about the oil, again," and arguing that, "Every time the U.S. topples a foreign country's dictator, government, the outcome has been disastrous." Her change of position, if any, or her role in planning this operation remains unclear. The Venezuelan diaspora's reaction has been largely celebratory, with gatherings in Santiago, Chile, Lima, Peru, and Madrid showing exiled Venezuelans expressing joy at Maduro's removal. However, there are also concerns about what comes next and whether American intervention will lead to genuine democratic transition or prolonged instability. Looking ahead, several critical challenges await resolution. The immediate question of Venezuelan governance must be addressed to prevent state collapse or civil conflict. The international community will need to decide whether to recognize American authority over Venezuela or support alternative transition mechanisms. Regional powers may need to mediate between American control and Venezuelan sovereignty to prevent broader conflicts. The legal proceedings against Maduro will provide a platform for examining the extent of alleged corruption and human rights abuses during his rule. However, they will also raise questions about selective justice and the precedent of prosecuting foreign leaders in American courts for actions taken in their own countries. This unprecedented intervention represents a watershed moment for American foreign policy, Latin American regional security, and international law. The outcome will influence not just Venezuela's future, but the broader balance between sovereignty and intervention, democracy and stability, in an increasingly complex global environment. Whether this operation leads to Venezuelan democratic renewal or creates new instabilities that spread throughout the region remains to be seen. Güncel haberleri yorumlayan yeni İngilizce bir metin yaz. 10 adet video başlığı, İngilizce kısa video açıklaması ve hashtag önerisi ver.